Welcome to the United States of America podcast. I'm your host, Niti, and we are broadcasting live from the Food Church here in North Carolina. If you've missed past episodes, please be sure to take the time to watch the first episode and watch the rest like a documentary. We are a people at peace, and we have declared peace to all nations around the world. This is not a marketing or a promotional channel. We are shining a light on knowledge that is being hidden from you, and we are sharing the truth about your birthright and your inheritance. We have moderators who are assisting in the comment section. Be kind and self-govern. And if you have any questions, please put them in all caps and only enter them once per show. I'm joined on air normally with Greg Clarkson. He's not here with us today, but I'm proud to introduce you to Justice Anna Maria, who is joining us live from Alaska today. Hello, Anna.
Hi, guys. I'm digging here for some information that came up on my feed this morning. There is a new 800 number to report chemtrails. And I am looking for it right here. I'm not finding it right off the top.
Well, when you find it, we're going to post it all over the place.
Well, I will be sure and dig for it. Because this is important. The government is finally cracking down.
It's always the last thing that'll pop up, right? Whenever it's top of mind.
Well, and I know it was this morning because it was one of the first things I read. So it's a April 7, but I get so many emails.
I know, and there's so much happening here. Everybody's everything seems to be happening, I think, at 100 miles an hour. We've got Greg dealing with elderly care that he's dealing with in his family. We know, you're dealing with so much of that. How are Jim and Harold doing?
They're doing great.
Good.
Especially Harold is coming back. Jim is kind of holding on.
And it's all seemed to be wearing down on you because we can hear your cough lingering. And
well,
it's difficult.
Yeah, it is. And there's so many things going on.
Right. I mean, all of this that's going on with the de facto is so hard and so fast, and you're getting hit from all angles around the globe. It's a lot to keep up with. I hear you're dinging over there.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to ask for the 800 number. I'm searching everywhere I can here because it's important information.
Yeah, and every time you scroll somewhere, somebody messages you and knocks you back out.
That's my life. No, I'm not joking. I mean, I get so many messages.
I know. Well, for everybody out there, as you can see, Anna is constantly working. The podcast that we do is not, something that she's blocking time out for. She's working real time. And so we see that she's not an AI bot or anything either, because this was something that someone asked me. How do I know that Anna is even real? This is how you know.
Yeah, well, if I were a bot, I'd be doing better, right?
Oh, everyone's used to the actors, these well-trained actors. And so when they see the real people doing the real work, it's unimaginable for them that this is official. This is what official work looks like, guys. It's messy, it's crazy, and we're, living women and men are like being pulled and pushed into corners all the time. And this is what it looks like when the real work is happening. It doesn't look like, the movies.
Well, no, and real people have zits and bedhead hair, and we get tired, we nod off. We have all sorts of problems, indigestion, you name it.
Oh,
I did find a couple other real goodies for everybody.
okay.
IRS says don't file your taxes because if you do, we'll use it against you. At least they're being honest. You
Oh my
see,
gosh.
you do enslave yourself and you do cause yourself more trouble by actually filing those taxes, because when you do it, you're actually
Contracting.
you're contracting with them. And
Uh-huh.
here's the killer where they get you every time. At the bottom of the 1040 form and the 2565 and all these others, it says that you are a taxpayer and that you are submitting this under penalty of perjury, that it is complete and correct and blah, blah, blah. Well, so if you make any mistake, then you've perjured yourself. And if
Ah,
you're not a taxpayer, you've perjured yourself.
you're going
So,
to suborn yourself no matter what.
well, hey, this is back in 1998 when I stopped filing any kind of federal tax forms.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at the actual verbiage, and I realized, hey, a taxpayer is a warrant officer in the British Merchant Marine Service.
Wow.
That's the definition of taxpayer. It has a personnel code and everything else. Why in the hell would I, an American, ever say that or think that I was a taxpayer? And why would anyone else ever think that I was a taxpayer? I mean, it's lunacy. I am so not, I am not a member of the British Merchant Marines. Not now, not ever, never. That is a mistake. And
Mm.
it is not my duty to collect tariffs and taxes and fees and regulatory excises or gifts for the British king. That is not my duty, not my job. I don't fall into that personnel niche. Okay.
I think a lot of
And,
people don't know what their job is, Anna. They don't even know how to say not my job. Like, I think one of the most brilliant things you've said is that's not my job.
well, here's another brilliant thing for me. I have a wonderful little blurb here that says ivermectin cures all kinds of cancer. Okay, but but hold on here.
Mhm.
We're about to have another revelation.
Mhm.
Now, I have always known in all the years that I've dealt with cancer, I have always known that there was a parasite involved
Mhm.
because you could watch the ebb and flow of the egg cycle.
Mhm.
So I always knew that there was a parasite involved.
But something's got to be feeding that parasite. This is what the people don't comprehend, Anna, is that when they have a toxic ecosystem because they've been feeding it imitation food, poison and chemistry projects, then that is what will promote the imbalance, and it will feed these parasites that come to eat these things to rebalance the system. Listen, it's the same thing we see in the soil, Anna. When you have the soil being out of balance, then you get the weeds, right? And everyone thinks that you're supposed to kill the weeds, but no, the weeds are what come to cure the imbalances in the soil so that it will remedy so you can have new growth. And once you get past all of that, then it actually remediates. But no one wants to eliminate the food that is feeding the parasite, which is probably something that someone it would require
I
them
have,
to stop eating something.
I
You
have
got
to
to take
take
it.
a call. I'll be right back.
Okay. You guys, this is one of those days where Anna's just getting interrupted constantly with berated by with all the questions and stuff, but we'll bring her back up here in a few seconds. Let me look and see what you got going on. Dun, 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 dun. Private, not for hire. I'm not sure you can get the FRNs back. And when they were explaining the situation of the vault, they were saying that it would be something that wouldn't be accessible. We'll have to ask Anna about it, but I don't think that I don't know you have access to it. Here's Anna. We can ask her.
I'm back.
Anna, when people put money in the vault, I don't think that money comes out, right? Because it said, you guys said, or when I read it, I was reading like, don't put money in there that you may need. Am I
Right.
wrong?
No, you're right. And the thing is that what happens is
Mm,
it gets translated into AFD,
right.
and,
I mean,
and as
which
soon
is
as
a gift.
right, and as soon as the AFD translates, then you can do whatever you want with it. You can translate it into euros, you can translate it into yen, you can translate it into USD instead of FRNs. Federal Reserve notes are, especially after everything rolled out this week,
Mm-hmm.
um, we won our case in world court against Donald Trump.
Okay, good, because these people think you didn't.
Now, he couldn't establish standing.
Right. This is the one thing everybody needs to comprehend about what Anna is constantly saying. Even with the way that you wrote in the Drill Assembly Handbook in Section 3, that the way that the courts operate is not to be debated, it is not to be argued. And what Anna has been doing, friends, is following the path, the court system, the system that these people created. It's not like Anna made the system up, right, Anna?
Right.
Please
I didn't make
speak
this
about
up.
that. Yeah, this is what they need to know. They don't comprehend.
Well, okay. Um, if you're at sea, you can't be standing on the land, right? It's just practical life. I mean, you know that if you're at sea on a boat out in the middle of the ocean, you are not standing on the land and soil, right? Okay. So we all know this. It's directly observable. It's not really anything that you can debate, right? But you have to wrap your head around the idea that each one of these venues have their own law. You have the law of the sea, you have the law of the land, you have the law of the soil, and you have the law of the air. Okay? Now, all physical assets, all physical assets belong to who or what? people of substance. It all belongs to us, the living people who have bodies, who have blood, who have hands and feet. Okay?
Versus the paper. I just want to point that out, Anna, because I think when you say these factual things, they don't maybe comprehend it. Like, friends, they made us corporations on paper, and we're actually like real people. So,
Right. And, we have, and with our alliance with the Native nations, we have a complete claim. We're enabled to do everything we need to do. The living people and the dual nationality system, not dual citizenship, dual nationality system works. That way,
nationality. And
right.
the nations are the people. The traditional nations that Anna is speaking of is the people, the native people.
The living people,
Right.
and that's why the claim says that the claim is for those who have hands and feet. Okay, in whom the blood flows and the flesh grows. Okay, so anything that's physical, gold, silver, land, uh, commodities of all kinds, anything that's physical has to belong to physical people. It's ours. It's our world. It's our province. It's where we are. Okay, this is our jurisdiction. Is terra firma, right?
Reality, the reality based stuff.
Right, and this is governed by what's called the law of kinds, which is set down in Genesis, and which is a natural law, wherein things of substance belong to people of substance because they are themselves of substance, right? So anything physical belongs to the living people and it's administered by their lawful persons. And the lawful person is the connection between the world of what's real and the world which is unreal, meaning corporations and businesses and entities. Okay,
Airy fairy stuff. So
right.
like the companies that we think of and we create and we just make up in our mind and just that's what folks need to comprehend too. And I'm sorry, Anna, I'm just excited about it. Go ahead.
Well, it goes back to the example of the cat. You have your own cat, right? You have a living, purring, scratching, pouncing, uh, digging, curtain clawing cat, right? It's a cat. It's alive. It breathes in and out. It purrs. It demands to be fed, right? It's alive. Okay. And you call your cat Felix. Okay. You've now labeled your cat, but the name Felix is not the cat. It's just a reference that you use for your own convenience to give a given name to your pet. Okay? It's a process that's no different than your parents giving you a given name to refer to their son or daughter. All right? Okay, so now you've given a name to Felix and you use that name to refer to him and to identify him among all other cats, right? Or at least all other cats in your household. Um, so you have Felix, and you have a name, but you know that the name is not Felix. And you know that you could have called him Christoph or Meowser or any other, you know, any number of names that you could have contrived, made up, whatever. You didn't have to name him Felix. You could have named him all sorts of other things. And you know that that choice was arbitrary. And you know that you gave him this label, right? So there's no mystery about it. Okay, next you decide you're going to paint a picture of Felix. This is a representation of Felix in a specific medium. Oil paint. Okay, here you've got this great oil painting of Felix. It's a representation of him. It's not the cat either. It's just a representation of what he looks like rendered in oil paint. Okay, it's on a canvas. Woohoo! It's a person, it's a representation of him.
Like the British territorial name, the upper and lowercase thing that they do, or the all caps municipal. So what Anna's saying, y'all, is the three or more or endless ens legises, right? The
Right. Yeah,
creatures of the law that they create.
yeah. And as many jurisdictions as you can dream up, and as many different mediums as you can apply. I mean, okay, you have an oil painting of Felix. What's keeping you from making a charcoal drawing of Felix? Nothing. It's just another representation of Felix in a different medium. Or you could do a watercolor, or you could do a photo, you could do a video, you know. But all of these things are not Felix. They are not the cat. The name is not the cat. The painting is not the cat. The photo is not the cat. The cat is its own thing, and it has substance and life and breath. Okay? We're the same way. We have substance and life and breath. We are not our names. We are not representations of us. Okay?
Photos. We're not photos. The photo is not real. Like if Anna sends me a photo of Felix the cat, now Felix the cat's photo is in my jurisdiction and she's got a copy in her jurisdiction. Isn't that funny, huh, Anna?
Yeah. And all of this is happening, and we all understand it. I mean, we all know that a photo of a cat is not a cat, right? So we need to wake up and realize that a name is not us. We need to wake up and realize that an estate trust named after us is not us. A commercial corporation franchise named after us is still not us. And it can never be us. And why is that? It's because of the law of kinds.
Anna, I think this is the moment where everybody gets confused because we do operate in the reality. Like I'm talking to you, Anna, right here, right now, right? And we're in front of all these people, right? Well, they can see that, right?
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
but the world, like what Anna says is, how does the world really work? They just are making it, they're pretending like Anna right now is running rum. What do they say you're doing? Running some rum.
yeah. The IRS master file says that I was a middle manager running a rum distillery in Barbados.
Okay.
And
While
my,
she's sitting in Alaska.
you know, while I'm minding my own business living in Alaska, their IRS master file also had my husband down as running guns in South America. He was an arms salesman in South America, and he didn't leave Big Lake, Alaska either. So, you know, they make this stuff up about these representations as if, you know, characters in a novel. Okay, that's a representation of a theoretical fictional character. And so what we're talking about is like the Wizard of Oz. There's Kansas and Dorothy and you know Miss Gulch and you know Toto, and then there are these representations.
Her
You know,
straw man, the tin man, the lion. You guys, that was all Dorothy, right? Because it was the brainless Dorothy, the straw man. It was the heartless Dorothy, the Tin Man, the TIN, TIN is your tax ID number, TIN. And then the lion who has no courage, which, we have to have courage, right, Anna? I think Anna doesn't want to really know us if we don't have any courage. Is that right?
Well, you're going to need courage to, face up to the mental gymnastics involved here and to own it and to realize that you've been duped by a bunch of shysters, organized shysters that have impersonated you.
At the end of the yellow brick road, the little wizard guy behind the curtain.
And what happens at the very end? Well, in the real story, the actual written story that Frank L. Baum pinned back prior to the beginning of the Federal Reserve, the modern Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve has actually been with us from the beginning of the country. But the modern Federal Reserve in 1913 came after Frank L. Baum finished and published the Wizard of Oz. And in the actual book, not the movie, Dorothy clicks the heels of her silver slippers, not her ruby slippers.
That would make a big difference, friends.
Especially when silver was, at that time, the commodity standard for our money, you see. So when we click our silver heels, that stands for something. That stands for our silver money. When we apply our silver money to their fiat la representation money, their credit or debit, okay, then everything goes snap. We're back in Kansas, boys. Now all of a sudden it's back here with terra firma. And it may not be as fancy, it may not be as colorful, but guess what? There's no place like home.
That's right. That's right. And this is, I hope it's coming together for everybody. And a lot of folks are really concerned, Anna, that, well, why are we talking about the health of this guy or that guy? How is this affecting our GFG access? It probably has nothing to do with that, y'all.
No. Julius has already provided us with all of the information, all of, his last will and testament. He is adamant to the dying breath to try to see it through that his family's money is used to, quote, break the chains of poverty and ignorance.
Anna, is that possible if people continue to just lie? Because, from my comprehension of natural law is that you are so free you can even choose bondage. But that requires you to operate, in correct action.
Well, you have an unlimited ability to contract, but whether or not you choose to is another matter. And it has to be knowing and voluntary in order for it to be valid.
Right.
One of the things that happened this past week, because Mr. Trump didn't listen and went into the world court thinking he knew it all, is that they lost the 650 plane loads of gold.
Lost?
Well, they didn't lose it physically,
okay,
but they lost claim to it.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, they lost claim to it because they did not pay attention and establish standing. They did not re-enter the proper jurisdiction. And what is gold? Gold is substance. It's physical. Therefore, who owns it? Only physical people can own gold.
And the people with the authority, you taught us that if you were not given the original authority, like where is this authority coming from for Trump to even have any claim on anything in the first place?
Right. Okay. So they went and recouped all this gold, but they can't keep it because they don't have standing to keep it. Okay.
Right.
And it's not like we didn't try to tell them.
Right.
But anyway, uh, he lost in world court. So they've lost in the Vatican court, they've lost in the world court,
Mm-hmm.
and there's nowhere else to go except home to the land and soil. Okay, now let me explain something about all this gold. This is the gold that was used to bond the babies as they were born and registered and certificated. Okay, you were worth your weight in gold the moment you were born. And so each one of us has a different amount of gold that was allocated for that bond. So, for example, I weighed 6 pounds, 6 ounces at birth. So they set aside 6 pounds, 6 ounces of gold, and they paid that as to bond me, as in bondage. Okay. They placed this, they paid for me, they bought me. Okay. And they set this aside. Now, they've done this to 6 generations of Americans. So, what happens? They put it in a generation skipping trust. All right. So, they set aside a birth weight amount for my 2 grandfathers and my 2 grandmothers. And I am now the recipient, the beneficiary of that amount of gold, the 4 birth weights combined. I'm the beneficiary of it because it's a generation skipping trust. Now, of course, I'm not the only beneficiary, or wouldn't have been the only beneficiary because I have siblings, right? I had a sister. She's passed on. She died last year. So um, the portion that would have been hers from our grandparents now is released because she's dead too, right? And that gets her share gets thrown back into the pile to continue this whole process of buying babies as they're born and placing them in bondage, indebting them to the guarantor, in this case, the Pope, or the Roman Pontiff, I should say. Anyway, so it's really going to be a hell of a calculation, and it's going to be a pain in the butt. But all that gold represents an inheritance that people have, and it's dependent on the birth weight, and only heaven can sort out the generation skipping trust aspect of it, because we have entire generations of people who were presumed to be donors to this nefarious scheme, and they're dead. They're gone. So there's nothing we can do for them except to live better lives and be better people. Anyway, we get to try to muddle our way through dispersing all of that too.
And folks are wanting to know the details about this case and how it went in world court.
Well, Chief Laverne Fasthorse represented our case, and Mr. Trump came in, and they were going to try to do the substitute federal republic, and he just did not understand standing. He didn't understand that as an elected official, he could represent living people, but he could not establish his own standing in that venue. And so there were numerous different things discussed, um, one of which was a claim that he was born in Bavaria. And of course, if he was born to American parents in Bavaria, he'd still be an American, but he wouldn't be able to um, meet the qualifications for president. Or at least that's one of the big fights going on. Anyway, he's president of the USA Inc., okay? Uh, the president of the USA Inc. Operates under delegated powers, and as the president of a corporation, a foreign corporation, as it turns out. And so they're in a different status than a living, breathing, honest to God cat. Okay? For whatever reason, Donald Trump has chosen to operate as a photo of a cat instead of the cat. And so there's no way he could claim the land. There's no way he could claim the soil. There's no way he could claim the unincorporated businesses, which are foreign, which are American. Okay. And so, and it wasn't just Trump. There were others there too that were trying to make an argument. But when you get right down to it, it's the people who live here who own it.
I think a lot of folks are trying to figure out how they can follow it. You know, we don't get to see any of this kind of thing. And so I don't know if there's anywhere that anyone can witness or observe something like that.
I'll publish it. And remember, Laverne Fasthorse was our representative. He was prosecuting the case on behalf of the living people, which of course includes the native people who live here. And we, of course, are the perpetual dual nationality, so that every member of every tribe in the country is also a dual national of their state of the union. So, you know, if you are a Winnebago and you're born in the Ho-Chunka Nation, right?
Right.
And you're born somewhere in Wisconsin, okay, you're a Winnebago and you're also a Wisconsinite.
Right.
This is the perpetual union between land and soil. And yes, you can have two nationalities all conjoined under one union. This is their union. This is what they're talking about. When they're talking about the union, they're talking about the perpetual natural union between land and soil.
Right. Your county and your state. And this nationality is what they want to talk you out of. It's what they're trying to contract you out of by convincing you that you want to be a citizen. You know?
And really, citizen means that you are a public employee, that you owe service to the government in exchange for wages or benefits.
Which we don't even allow our progeny to do until they're 21, and they try to get our progeny to contract with them at 18. And this is also like, you know, this is a misunderstanding, and a lot of people just don't have all these facts. That's the problem.
Right. You know. Well, and they're not given the facts. They are deceived. They're purposefully deceived. You know, just this week I wrote a kind of a barn burner of an article warning people to pay attention to the verbiage and the circumstance. You know, don't just go along in la la land and assume that your government has your best interests at heart, because your government is a greedy foreign commercial corporation that doesn't even usually honor its contracts with you.
You mean the corporatocracy? This is the problem. You guys, we're the government. And they're the de facto government by popularity contest, right?
Well, actually, we're the employers, but because we haven't occupied our own government space and done our own government job, our job is to tell them what we want. We're
Okay.
supposed to be telling them what our priorities are. When it comes to a question of whether to go to war or not, we should be telling them yay or nay.
Right.
When it comes to a question of spending money, should we spend money on Ukraine, yay or nay? We should be telling them that at the federal level.
Right.
When it comes to state politics and state issues, um, is it our priority to have secure borders and clean water, or is it our priority to have 10 new bridges and 3 new roads? In a world in which we have limited materials and limited manpower and limited time and space, what is our priority as a state? Our state assembly is supposed to be telling the state legislature in no uncertain terms, yes, we want to spend money on that. No, we don't want to spend money on this. And maybe we'll spend money on that next year, 10 years from now, whatever. But the people have not been speaking in the correct and organized way to their employees, with the result that the foxes have been in charge of the hen house for 160 years. We've had foreign bureaucracies running, quote unquote, our government under usurped and delegated powers. And it's time that we all woke up and stood up, did our part, and developed the scheme back to where it's supposed to be, so that the people of this country tell their employees what to do and what the priorities are.
Right.
Okay, it's just like any boss with a bunch of employees.
Right. And there's a lot of explaining to do since we've been supposedly not, aware of this and doing that for the last 160 years. So we're getting there. We're
We
getting there.
are, and we have enough consensus on things, so it's a no-brainer that no, we don't want to go to war in the Middle East.
Right.
No, we don't want to go to war in China over Taiwan. No, we don't want to go to war in Ukraine. We just
Mhm.
plain flat out don't want to go to war at all. So, everybody's going to just have to settle their own scraps, or not engage in them anymore, because the Americans are not here as cheap mercenaries.
Mm-mm. And I mean, the latest article, well, you've written so many powerful ones recently, and I encourage everyone to read and catch up on those, because you are plainly explaining, and everyone isn't reading. That's a whole different thing. And then here we are in YouTube land, we want to let everybody know what's going on who doesn't even maybe know who Anna is. But you have been the vigilant ones. I mean, you guys, you, Julius, and all of the Federation folks have been the ones who have been vigilant, keeping the light on for in the office to help and instruct the people. And we appreciate that, and thank you so much. And thank you for making the time to educate all of us at this point. And that's what we're doing here, friends, for the ones that are new who don't know what's going on. Lady J88 has a good question, Anna. So we missed you last week. I did read to them and explain to them that the exchange was live and everything that you conveyed. And so we wanted to know if there is somewhere that we can see the exchange, and where, like, is there a link or something like that?
There'll be an announcement.
Okay.
And our exchange is just like any other exchange platform, where you can exchange one kind of money for another kind of money at a rate that is the going rate in the rest of the world. So, we'll have our exchange platform launched here. And very soon after that, we'll have access to money, actual money, AFD, that we can exchange for anything we want. We can exchange it for other money of asset-backed money, or we can exchange it for goods and services, or we can exchange it for, God forbid, Federal Reserve notes or USD, whatever our little hearts desire and our vendors demand. But after all the stuff that's going on now, just cannot see how the Federal Reserve note is going to survive. So it's right now in the grip of inflation. And of course, Mr. Trump is trying to beat back inflation by imposing these reciprocal tariffs. And part of what people are misrepresenting, the talking heads, by the way, and a lot of hysterical people out there, oh, tariffs are so bad, is the word reciprocal.
Mm.
Uh, Tariffs can be punitive, they can cost consumers. Uh, Tariffs can be used in inappropriate ways. But in this case, all that's being done is that Trump is saying, okay, you are going to protect your markets from us and from our products. So, to the exact same degree, we're going to protect our markets from your products. Okay? It's reciprocal. What's sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. Okay? They're not doing anything to China. Trump is not doing anything to Germany. He's not doing anything to France. He's not doing anything to Italy or Greece or any country. It's a matter of what they're doing to us. Okay? Canada was charging something like 360% tariff on dairy products from entering Canada. Okay, they were seriously protecting their market against American dairy products. All right, fine. So Trump just turned around and said, you're charging 360% against our creamery butter. Well, we'll just charge 360% against your creamery butter. It's fair. It's fair trade. That's what the essence of fair trade is. And you know, people don't like it, especially those countries that have been getting a free ride for 60, 70, 80 years and have been able to protect their markets and to their advantage and basically develop these huge trade deficits with America using protective tariffs of their own against us. But it does not make any sense. It does not make any sense for us. And ultimately, it doesn't make any sense for them. Now, they've had their protective tariffs ever since the Second World War. And those protective tariffs have allowed them to build up their own industries and slack along and not have to compete. And we have taken it in the shorts to buy them that time so that they had the basis to develop their own products and to protect their industries as they were getting back on their feet after the Second World War. But it's been 80 years since the end of the war, folks. Come on. It's time that everybody got back into their own real world. And we stopped being the goats because we have been the goats. We paid for the entire amount, we being Americans, Julius being an American, V.K. Durham being an American, Diane Urban being an American, all these family trusts, all these individual quote unquote legacy trusts, we all paid to rebuild the entire world after the Second World War. And an unfair tariff system was part of that. Well, it's been 80 years. The United States Corporation is bankrupt. It's in Chapter 7, liquidation, involuntary. It's not coming back, folks. And that corporation is huge. Huge.
And sorry.
Well, anyway, I'm ranting here. I'm explaining to people why this is not, why the tariffs were relaxed in the first place and why they're coming back in line now.
Right. And you go through great detail with that too in one of the articles recently. I'm trying to remember which notice that was called because there's so many of them. I think you've released like 7 or 10 notices in the last 10 days. So I have a question, Anna, from Australia for you. So, they sent me a written question because it was that, again, they have a time difference. They're just seeking an answer from you. This is from Brad and Nicole from Port Stephens in New South Wales state of Terra Australis. And they say that they appreciate you so much and really love the podcast. They were wondering if you could please answer when convenient about exchanging their currency pursuant to what Anna has said with regard to not accepting government corporation payouts as settlement through the QFS. We have been brainstorming how it would best serve people with currency to exchange. What is the appropriate method of exchange, as we would like to follow Anna's recommendation? We have Zim, Dong, and Bolivar. We are thinking that we may have to come to America to exchange at the Global Family Bank, but could you please explain?
No, when we realized that we had to set it up at a retail level, we set it up so that everybody worldwide can get an account with the Global Family Bank, an
So they'll
actual
be able to.
retail account. And this is when we're talking about the Global Family Bank, we're talking about actually a cluster of banks, all right? We're not talking about just one bank. And what happens is when you have these foreign currencies that you want to exchange because they've increased in value as an investment, what happens is that you take it to an international trade bank. And in this country, there are precious few international trade banks that even exist. They were basically, they've disappeared over the past 100 years. And there are very, very few international trade banks left. But you take your Zim or your Dong or your Swiss francs or whatever currency, whatever foreign currency you want to exchange, and you turn it in, and it goes back to the government that issued it. And you get whatever form of currency you want to use for your purposes. Now, I want to explain something to people. In this country, the Federal Reserve note has been used as a domestic currency. Okay? It has been used for exchanges domestically in this country. But out there in the wider world, we have the United States dollar, which has always been backed by assets. So this idea that we don't have asset-backed currency is ridiculous. We've always had asset-backed currency. We've had gold-backed currency. We've had silver-backed currency. We've had oil-backed currency. Refined oil was the commodity in back of the USD. So we've always had asset-backed currency in this country. It's simply that we haven't been using it domestically. We've been using it internationally. Okay. So anyway, you can trade your AFD, your gold, for any kind of currency that you like, just like you can trade your Zim bonds for any kind of currency.
Which this is an addendum question then, based on Zim bonds. So he's saying, my addendum question is, would an international trade bank or global family bank redeem the Zim bearer bond 1-to-1?
Right. Well, that's what an exchange is supposed to be.
Okay. Well, I mean, listen, I hope you guys are hearing. Listen, Brad, I'll be sharing the recording with them.
Yeah, well, an exchange is supposed to be, and people who've traveled in the rest of the world and haven't just been sitting here back home on the farm realize that when you go from Germany to France, you have to visit an office and exchange your German Deutschmarks for French francs if you want to buy things in the stores, right?
That's right.
There's a currency exchange. In Germany, it's called the Wechselstube. Okay, you like that?
That's
You're changing the money.
right.
What were the money changers doing in front of the temple during
Right.
Jesus's day and age? They were exchanging one kind of currency into another kind of currency.
Right.
Okay, so it's the same thing. Now, bonds are a little bit different than currency. Okay, so Zim bonds have to be negotiated with the government that issued them, right?
Hmm.
But it's still a gold backed instrument. Okay, so that gold backed instrument has to go through what? An international trade bank.
Right.
Anything that's physical, any asset backed currency has to go through an international trade bank because trade is where we actually trade goods and services.
Like
Everything
GFP.
else is just credit and debit. Okay.
Right.
So you go to an international trade bank, and Global Family has an international trade bank as part of its structure, right?
Mhm.
And they can negotiate the Zim bonds for you, and for a brokerage fee, which I guarantee you is a lot less than 80 or 90% of the investment value, they can work out an agreement with the Zimbabwean government to return these bonds to them. Every time a bond is returned to them, they breathe a sigh of relief and go, "Oh, we got our money back. We got our resources back. That's a wonderful thing." They're eager to get their Zim bonds back. That's like
Nice.
paying off debt for them. That's like gaining an asset back, right?
Right.
So there's not a big problem. It's not like anybody has to, get behind them and twist their arm. They're going to be happy to get those bonds back. And as far as we're concerned, you get the value of the gold in the ground.
Yeah.
So however that works out, you then have invested in something. You have cashed in your bonds, and you should just get it credited to your account. There shouldn't be all this cloak and dagger stuff. The only, yeah,
They're just used to the constant shenanigans. The this idea that everything should just be straightforward, like the beginning of the show today, Anna. We were talking about, like this is what reality looks like, friends. And it's not like um, the show that you were demonstrating by explaining to them about the whole cat and the cat pictures and the persons and the whatever. This is the way that the corporatocracy operates in the chaos and the confusion. Anyway, Anna, thank
yeah.
you so much for being with us today and clearing so many things up. There is one last question, if you don't mind answering it. Otherwise, I appreciate everything. I know that we've hit all the things that everybody wanted to know and more.
There is one really important thing.
Yes.
Okay, Niti, can you type in so that it shows up
Yeah,
as a question or a banner?
I
Okay.
sure will. Yep. I'm
Okay.
ready.
Here's the word.
Okay.
It's fasciolopsis. FASIOLOPSIS
Mm-hmm.
space Busky, capital BUSKI.
Okay. So fasciolopsis is one word.
Fasciolopsis is one word, and Busky is one word.
Okay.
Fasciolopsis, Fasciolopsis busky.
Okay.
That is the name of the parasite that causes all forms of cancer.
Okay.
And that's why they're coming out and saying that ivermectin cures all forms of cancer because it kills the parasite,
Mm-hmm.
Phaseolopsis buski. And this is really going to make you mad because I've always known that there was a parasite, but I never knew what, the specific name and identity of the beastie. Well, there it is. And guess where it was found? In Dr. Otto Warburg's
Mm.
1931 research.
They knew most of this stuff a long time ago. If you look up Dr. Salisbury and all of these men, they knew the cure for all of the things, and they're all caused by metabolic disease. And this is where the Rockefellers, when they centralized everything and created standard of care in 1920 and filed that in the white papers with with the Flexner report, then when they established the standard of care, they did it on purpose. Because what was Rockefeller? He was a snake oil salesman, and he wanted you to buy his snake oil, and he decided that he would just centralize everything. Education, like we got somebody in here asking about how to pay for their university education for one of their progeny. Do you want your progeny to go to university, to be programmed to not want to be honoring, not, I mean, listen, we want people to be educated, but we need them to be educated in the truth and in reality, and how to do things and how to make things and how to actually create, right, Anna?
Right. This little animal here, Phaseolopsis buski,
Mm-hmm.
is a clear gelatinous critter that looks a lot like a paramecium.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a little zigzag line of black dots that are eggs. And all this thing does is it's a scavenger. It goes
Mm.
around and if there's a dead cell, if there's a dead bacteria, if there's fragments of this or that, it eats it. Okay. And every once in a while, you'll have a bloom of these things, just like you have a yeast infection.
Mm-hmm.
Only this thing turns into cancer. It starts invading and taking over and proliferating cells so that it has food. So this is a major thing that we need to take into our account of cancer is we are dealing not only with pollution of our blood,
Mm-hmm.
but we are dealing with parasites. And this is why things like fenbendazole and ivermectin are effective. They kill the parasite. Fasciolopsis. Fasciolopsis.
Fasciolopsis buski. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, there it is. The name of the enemy. It has been identified at long last. And more than being identified, it's finally out in the public so that you can know what you're facing and what your relatives and friends have been facing when they have cancer. Now, the other thing that came out is that it can be killed using a wide number of different things.
Sure.
Um, it it is susceptible to electrical current. So if you have a ionic foot bath,
Mm-hmm.
uh, the electrical current in that ionic foot bath is circulating through your flesh and your feet, and your blood is flowing continuously through your feet. So
Yep.
after about 15, 20 minutes of, doing a ionic foot bath, all your blood has been subjected to that, and all of those little parasites have been killed.
Mm-hmm.
And you
And
just,
yep.
you know,
Right. This is important. And that's why, and usually you would have Epsom salt, or you can put calcium bentonite clay in there if you want to help draw blood to your feet and circulate it a lot faster. Also, when it's doing that, it's also reoxygenating as
Right.
fast as it can. So that oxygen also is one of the things that helps to fight, all these types of parasites and other um, uh,
Right. And there are things you can do to increase the amount of oxygen in your system. You can learn to breathe more efficiently,
Wim
to
Hof.
breathe, to breathe all the way down into your gut, into the diaphragm, so that
Yep.
you're getting more air. And that is going to oxygenate your whole system. You can take there are certain pills or preparations that will release oxygen or electrons into your system. Okay, and so you can take some of these oxygen compounds that will have a long-term effect. And so there are many things you can do. Just growing a whole bunch of house plants in your living area will have a great effect on how much oxygen you have in your home environment, and how clean your air is. Okay, so these are all things that are effective, and so are all of these parasite remedies: wormwood, sweet wormwood, and black walnut hull extract. These are traditional vermifuges and parasite killing compounds that also work for our little Fasciolopsis busky. It will kill it dead, but you have to have kind of a regimen. You have to be thinking in terms of killing parasites and oxygenating your blood and doing what you can to improve your overall condition of your blood. Your blood is what's at issue. Your blood is absolutely critical to your health. And so, one of the things that we're trying to put together for Julius is to get him on dialysis. And even one treatment of on a dialysis machine would clean up a large percentage of the pollution in his blood and help oxygenate it. So,
That's
um,
true. That's. Do you
so
think
that
that they'll try that?
Well, we're trying to find out. They don't recommend it, guess what, for Medicaid patients or Medicare patients, because it's too expensive.
I
But,
mean, they won't recommend anything that doesn't meet standard of care, Anna, right?
well, and they won't recommend it, or because they can't pay for it,
Well,
you
yeah.
see. But if you can pay for it separately, if someone will come in and pay it for you as a donor,
Mm-hmm.
and so then there's a possibility that we can raise the funds to pay for a dialysis procedure on him and get his blood purified, oxygenated, and back in his body,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and take a lot of the excess swelling, the excess fluid out. Um, it can be a very um, successful therapy for someone in his condition. And like I say, they won't do it unless there's some deep pocket donor there that is prepared to pay $20,000 for a session.
Mm, got it. Well, Anna, we appreciate you so much. And we are sending lots of powerful, healing, light energy, more than 30 trillion watts from each of us.
33 trillion watts.
we're sending you as much as we can every single day. And thank you so much for everything that you guys are doing and for your time and your voice today. And we'll look forward to seeing you next Tuesday.
Take care, Niti.
Thank you so much.
If I can find that 800 number, I will get it out to you.
Please do. And then I'll be sure to blast it out.
What? Just one more second here. Let me take a quick look here.
Okay.
Because I have lots of rat watchers and lots of people who probably got the same message I got.
Okay.
I would not. Ah,
Yeah. We got it?
yes.
I want to punch it in over here. I'm going to put it
Yay,
on.
rat watch! Yay, rat watch!
Yay! All right. What's the number?
1-800
Yes.
811 8831.
Hold on. Let me make sure I can make this legible here. One 1-800-811-8831.
Yep. What do you bet their phone is crashing today?
I'll be making it crash every day because they are killing us over here. It's ridiculous.
See, this is why I love Rat Watch.
There it is.
You get 20, 30 million people watching the rats, and there's just no end to the information that just pops up on your screen.
This is cooperation, Anna.
Yep.
This is the cooperation, because what the corporatocracy wants is competition. But we don't operate in competition.
No.
We only operate in cooperation. That's what living people do. That's why we don't need 20 million rules. We just need to do unto others, and we need to just do no harm. And most of us are fine with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if everybody's not winning, nobody's winning, friends.
Right. So by sharing this information today with everybody, our rat watchers will be benefiting themselves too, because the chemtrails will go away.
Let's get them, guys. Let's get them.
Rat watch.
Thank you, friends. We'll see you next
Thank
Tuesday.
You.